So let's talk about how to find the mean and the standard deviation if you've got a histogram or a frequency table. So I think I called this group frequency tables or grouped histograms or group frequency on the worksheet. And that we did on Monday. So group frequency worksheet 1. This is how to do problems like group frequency worksheet 1 or number 4 on the take-home, and it will be on the first test. So I'm going to start with a histogram here, and I just made this up. Yeah, the x's go from 2 to 6, and then 6 to 10, and then 10 to 14. These are the classes, and these are the frequencies. So 3 in this first class, 4 in the second class, 1 in the third class. And I wrote down the classes. These are class boundaries, so when you're doing these problems, we usually just use the boundaries because that's easy. If you're doing the other problems, sometimes I'll say, you know, I want your class limits in here, and they may be different from the boundaries. So the boundaries end at 0.5, then we usually put the class limits in here. So these are the boundaries, these are the limits, but in this case, they're both the same, okay? On the other problem, they won't be, but here they are. So we're going to start out by writing down the classes for the histogram. Then you're going to find the midpoint of each class, and you could just do that by going 2 plus 6 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. So that's this point right here is 4. The next one is 6 plus 10 is 16, divided by 2 is 8, and that's right here. The next one is 10 plus 14 is 24, divided by 2 is 12. So that's that point right there. So these are just the, the middles of each class, and we're going to call that the x or the midpoint. So this is the x point, okay, and this is the x-axis. So the x point, are these points right here on the x-axis in the middle of each class. Next we do the frequency, so it's going to be 3 in the first, 1, 2, 3 in the first class, 4 in the second class, 1 in the last class. And the total there is 3 plus 4 plus 1 is 8. That is n, or the sum of the frequencies is the n. So when we do our formulas and everything, the n we're going to use is 8. Because there's 3, 4 is 7, 1 more is 8 things here on our histogram. Now we come to the xf column, and that is x times f, so this is going to be 12. 8 times 4 is 32. 12 times 1 will be 12. And then I add that column up, and I get 2, 4, 6. And this is 4, and 1 is 5. So this will be the sum of the x times f column. So we come over here, we figure out our formulas. The x bar, this is the bottom of the chapter 4 side of your formula sheet. The bottom right-hand corner tells you the x bar is the sum of the x times f's divided by n. So that is going to be, this here is the sum of the x times f, so it's 56, divided by the sum of the frequency column is n, that's 8, and 56 divided by 8 is 7. So that is right here. So that's the average of this distribution is 7. And remember, that's where we would balance this. If we made this out of wood or something like that, the balance point would be right there at 7. Okay? So that's the x bar. The sample average or sample mean is 7. Next, we're going to calculate the sample standard deviation, and that is n times the sum of the x squared f column minus the sum of the xf column squared divided by n times n minus 1. And then you take the square root of that whole thing. So we need a sum of an x squared times f column. That's this column here. So this is going to be the sum of the x squared times f's. That'll be this number in here. So we got to figure out what is the x squared times f. So you can either square the x and multiply it times f, or you can multiply x times f right there, and that'll be that same number. So 4 times 12, so that's x times f, that'd be x squared times f. So 4 times 12 is 48. 8 times 32 is 256. 12 times 12 is 144. Add those together, and I get 448. That's the sum of the x squared times f column. So in our formula, it's going to look like this. N we found is 8. The sum of the x squared times f is 448. So that's what this is right here, is 448, right? That's that sum of the x squared times f column. And then it's minus the sum of the xf column, which is 56 squared. You have to remember to square that. Then we're going to divide it by 8 times 7. So the denominator is 8 times 1 less than 8, which is 7. So let's see, this is 8 times 448 minus 56 squared. Remember, it's got to be positive. So do that all in one step. 8 times 448 minus 56 squared. That's equal to 448. It's kind of weird. And then I'm going to divide that by 8 times 7 is 56. So I'm going to go 448 divided by 56, and that is 8. So I'm taking the square root of 8. Don't forget to take the square root, which is 2.83. So the sample standard deviation will be 2.83. The sample average is 7. And that's how you find the mean and the standard deviation if you have a histogram or a frequency table. Okay? So this is on the take-home. It'll be on the test. It's a pretty hard problem, so you may want to, do it a couple of times, put an example on your formula sheet, something like that. Very good. Practice.